Oh, well, so it was like. Okay. This was just. You have a craft show? And he went in straight to the okay. Okay.
You know, regular old vegetable oil on it. In about 3 weeks, it's going to smell, and you can't get that smell out. You're going to have to just throw it away. Yeah, mineral oil is your best bet. And the nice thing about mineral oil is it's very easy to get. Go to your local pharmacy, go to the laxative section, and right there is mineral oil. That's all you need. You know, you probably have it in your food cabinet or your medicine cabinet, so that's the same stuff. You know, so if you have a little problem, take a little mineral oil and use the rest of it on your board. So that's what you do. So you know, I personally buy it in gallon buckets. So you know. Thankfully, I don't drink it. But anyway, but you can.
Out of the can?
Yeah, out of the can. You can't do that, but yeah, so that mineral oil is your way to go. Yeah.
When you left it in the mineral oil that long, did it darken it more than it
No,
did?
no, that's a very originally a dark oil. Yeah. But anything, I mean, any kind of finish you put on a board is going to darken it a little bit.
Well, yeah, I just didn't know if it, leaving it there
Oh, no.
long, if it
No.
affected the...
No, it did take a little while for it to dry, but yeah, no, but that, you know, but mineral oil. The one thing I will tell you though, what will soak into wood and ruin your board, if you put it in the dishwasher, done deal, buddy. It's not going to work. The wood will just blow up and just you won't ever be able to use that wood again. You'll just throw it away. So to ever put your wood cutting boards in a dishwasher, and never ever let them soak in water. And I can tell you that from experience, because I just had to do 2 cutting boards for my nephew. He's big into cooking, so I gave him a cutting board for Christmas, 7 or 8 years ago. And he called me one day and he said, "Well, your cutting board broke." And I said, "It broke?" He says, "Yeah, it did." And I said, "Well, what did you do to it?" Because, you know, cutting boards are kind of hard to break. And he said, "Well, I left it soaking in the water because he used it to do pasta and all that flour and stuff. And it got hard on the cutting board because he didn't clean it. So he put it in the dish or in the kitchen sink to let it soak for a while to get that off. Well, then he did what I did. He went off and did something else, and he forgot it was in there, and it had blown up. I mean, it was just, and he couldn't do anything with it. So I had to make him another one, which is not a good idea. But anyway, so yeah, so don't ever let it soak in water.
But you can wash it with just detergent or water?
Yeah. If you're just using vegetables on either any kind of cutting board, you just want to rinse it up under the sink. You know, just rinse it off and dry it, and then just sit it up against the wall and let it air dry. If you're using meat, then you definitely have to use soap and hot water. You know, and just, you know, I've got one of those little foam brushes that I use, and you know, just hot water and soap, and that's all you need.
Dry it off immediately.
Yeah, I dry it off with a towel and then just lean it up against the wall and let it air dry. Yeah, so, yeah. But yeah, they're very easy to maintain. Like I say, I mean, until I just oiled this one just a little while ago, I mean, it's been 3 years since I oiled it. I don't recommend waiting that long. Usually, if you got a board, you can tell when it starts to feel dry, and that's when you need to put more oil on it. So, now as far as the glass and plastic, like I said, if you got good knives, you don't want to use good knives on plastic and glass things because it dulls your knives real fast. Wood does not draw your knives. I mean, you have to, you know, knives that we would buy at the store, you know, you have to sharpen them once in a while, but it's not necessarily from the wood, it's probably from what you're cutting, you know, like the vegetables or the meat and that kind of thing. So anyways, plastic and wood, or plastic and glass, absolutely get rid of them. Anyway.
Do you make very many edge?
I don't, because, you know, the edge grain, you know, I mean, you've got a lot of different ways you can do edge grain. You can do 3/4 inch, which is what you normally get, or you can do 1/2 inch and stuff.
That's what I wondered if you did.
Yeah,
if you ever make edge.
I've done a few.
Because they're going to be pretty much all the same size.
Yeah, I mean, you can cut, you can rip the boards down in half and make different size and that kind of stuff. But they're comparable to face grain boards as far as durability and how they cut the knives and stuff like that. I just don't like the way they look. Now, if I was gonna make a chopping block, you know, like a big butcher block for like an island or something, then you would start with an edge grain board because you can make it really thick. And then when you cut your slices like this, then you're gonna have a much bigger slice, and that makes it a better chopping block. But for what I do, it's to me, it's not economical, you know, as far as the wood, so. But you can do it, and I don't see the difference in the way the knives work on a face grain or an edge grain board. I mean, it seems to me they make the same kind of marks, you know, but.
Do you, as you cut these, what do you do to finish the edge that you cut?
I joint them on my table saw. I do not have a joiner
You don't?
because, no, I've got too many friends that have lost fingers in joiners, and it just scares me. So I joint all my wood on the table saw, so.
Well, what kind of blade do you use?
I use a 32 glue line blade. Yeah, it works
You can
great.
get 60.
Yeah, you can do 60, yeah, I mean, I sometimes will do my slices with like a 40 tooth or a 50 tooth, 60 tooth blade, but the glue line blade just gives me a better finish.
Blue line.
Yeah, so I just like that better, so, but
How do
yeah,
you glue it on a table saw?
all this is done on a table saw, yeah.
She means she cuts them.
You cut them on the table
I
saw?
cut 'em on the
Oh,
table
okay.
saw, yeah.
I thought you
She
said
doesn't
glue
use
them.
the planer.
Oh, yeah,
edges.
yeah,
Okay.
no, I glue them, and that's, you know, you have to have some space to do the gluing, but I usually do it in my kitchen, so, but, anyway. So, yeah, so that's how you know, basics of cutting boards. As far as the woods, I think I mentioned, yeah, I usually just do the domestic woods. If you're gonna make your own cutting board, you need to use a very tight grained wood that doesn't, you know, soak up a lot of stuff. I mean, you don't wanna use pine or, you know, real loose grain like tiger wood or something like that. It's got weird grain, you don't wanna use that kind of stuff, so I just stick with that. And I think we've pretty much covered all
But
this.
oak,
Uh-huh.
you like oak?
If I use oak, I use some white oak because it's a little bit harder. I don't like redwood or red oak because it's pretty much got the same Jakarta rating, but it just doesn't look good in a cutting board. in my
That's why I like to
opinion.
buy it, because it's easier to cut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But for this.
Yeah, for this, yeah. But I do use oak, but my three predominant ones are the maple, cherry, and walnut. I'll use some mahogany for accents and stuff like that. And occasionally I'll use an exotic wood if I've got some piece laying around and might look good in the board. But I don't really have that much exotic woods because they're just expensive and they're, you know, I mean, like Purple Heart, I've used Purple Heart. Well, for us it's very expensive, you know, because it's an exotic wood. You go over to South Africa and they use it for decking like we would use redwood. So if I was in South Africa, I'll probably use more Purple Heart. So, but I don't live there, so I don't use it. But anyway, as far as joints too, you want to, the face grain boards, people have asked me about how durable they are as far as the glue joints, and they are very durable if you do the joints well. If you have boards that, these boards aren't jointed yet, and you know you can see sunlight through them. If you try to glue those two boards together, it won't last very long. So you got to make sure you have, you know, good edges, you know, for your boards, you know, like that. So you can't see any light through there. So that would make a good face grain board. You can go on the internet and find videos where they're testing glue joints, and you know they'll put it in a vise and then they'll take a sledgehammer and try to break it. 9 times out of 10, the break will be in the wood itself and not at the glue joint if you've done the joint well. I've never tested the joint thing on an edge grain board, but I imagine it would be about the same as a face grain board. I have actually tested it in my own shop, and that's what happens. It breaks the board. It doesn't break the glue joint. But again, it has to be done very well.
You use a water protected glue.
Yeah, I use
That's a
Teflon
Teflon
too.
too.
Yeah, Teflon too. Some woodworker or some cutting board people like to use Teflon 3, but it's a little bit graded, a little bit higher for waterproof uses. But the open time to get your gluing done is a lot smaller, and when I'm gluing, I'm a little slow. Yes.
well, or what?
I plane everything, and that's
After you glue it all
after
together.
I glue it all together.
So it can have the glue squishing out to
Yeah.
make sure everything's,
Right, yeah,
Okay.
you always have a little bit of a glue line when you
Yeah.
glue it together. I usually wipe off the glue before I put it through, because the glue will just kill your planer blades. So I always
You
wipe
said
off.
you didn't have a
Hmm?
I
that's
thought
on
you
the joint.
said.
No,
Well,
planer's different than a joiner.
yeah.
Yeah. Planers are, a lot easier, but yeah, all the face grain boards go through the planer. The argument among woodworkers on end grain boards is you should never put an end grain board through a planer because it'll break up and it'll shoot out at you like a missile. And some woodworkers say don't ever do that. I would not recommend it unless you know what you're doing, but I put all my end grain boards through the planer. And you just have to take very small slices. I have had a couple of accidents where I've taken a little bit bigger slice and the cutting board goes flying outside of the kitchen or outside of the garage. And I've had that happen a couple of times, and then you go in and change your underwear and have a drink, you know, it just becomes a because it will make a noise that you will think a bomb went off, you know, because it just explodes. So, and that board is done, it's firewood after that. So it's like,
You're not planing the individual boards before you glue them
no,
together.
no,
So
The only thing I
you
do-
just usually see straight off the saw,
straight off the saw, yeah.
you don't try to sand them in any way?
Nope.
What kind of blade you said you use?
I use a glue line blade.
What is that?
It's like, oh gosh, I think it's got 10 teeth to the inch,
Okay,
and it's really big.
real finished blade.
Real finished blade, yeah. I mean, it's, the blade I've got, I think it cost me like $80, some $85. And,
With a
you know,
carbide or?
It's carbide, yeah, and I keep it clean and, you know, that kind of stuff. Every now and then, because it does, the tannins do build up on it, and you have, you know, if you don't clean it, then you'll get burns on your cuts, and that's never good. It's like, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see that little mark right there?
Yeah.
That's a mark from the blade, and when I saw that the other day, I was like, oh, I need to clean my blade again. So as soon as you start seeing marks like that, you know your blade's getting either dull or it's dirty, you know, so.
You ever use biscuits? Just to
No. Some people swear by biscuits and cutting boards, but biscuits are generally made of balsa wood. Unless you make your own biscuits out of a hardwood, balsa wood, like, if I put this together with balsa wood biscuits and put it in the mineral oil to soak, the inside of it would just explode, and then you would be able to see the biscuit on the top of your board.
Huh.
Yeah, some people swear by it. I would not do it. So I have a biscuit maker and a biscuit cutter and everything to keep the furniture with biscuits.
So when you glue them all together, you put your glue on them, stack them all together,
Mhm.
you put something to keep them
No,
level?
no. They're level by, I mean, I
You
cut the
just-
boards,
Just clamp them
I
there.
just clamp them together, yeah. Now, if I've got an edge that
They
maybe up a
don't
little
try
bit.
and do that at all?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, you have to be careful. I mean, if your board is warped, then it's gonna,
Mhm.
bend up a little bit, but I generally don't use warped boards. If I got a board that's warped, I could have used for this, and after you cut it, sometimes when you cut it, the inside forces of the wood kind of warp a piece. If that happens on a piece like this, I just cut the warped part out and use that shorter piece for a different cutting board. So,
About 25, 30 years ago, that size there, I made 2 of those for my wife, and for a lap board.
yeah, that board's, yeah.
And she still uses them
Yeah.
today. She's got one of them on her side of the bed, and she's got one by her chair that she uses
Yeah.
all of the time.
Yeah, my roommate went out and got one of my cutting boards, and she uses it for a lap board. I was like, what are you doing? So I'm using it for a lap board.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, a lot of people do that. I've got a guy, well, I don't do too many shows anymore, but I used to have a guy that over at White Rock Mountain, he'd come over and he'd look at my cutting boards and he'd buy them, and he never used them. He put them up on his wall for decoration. So whatever floats your boat, you
Yeah.
want to pay me $80 for a board, put it on your wall. You're welcome to it. So, but yeah, so that's but yeah, I very seldom ever plane my wood before I glue them together. I mean, occasionally if I've got like a piece of walnut that's a little bit thicker than the rest of them, to save me time when I've got the finished board ready to go through the planer, I might plane that down. But But yeah,
I
the only,
guess you really wouldn't have to, I guess, if
you
you're
don't
gonna
really have
play
to.
them anyway,
Yeah,
but
yeah, it
as
just
long as
saves
you
a
got
little
one
bit
flat
of time.
side, you're all right.
Exactly, exactly. And, so usually I just worry about the inches,
No,
you know.
I
So
ain't
when
got
you're
no.
gluing down, you make sure you're on
I
a
got
level
like
plane.
a lathe,
Say that
I ain't must
When
get
you're
it.
gluing,
Uh-huh.
you make sure you're on a level plane.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I use my clamps as the base for the gluing. Because I've got, I think they're called F clamps. And, you know, they've got a
It's
bar
set
about
up,
like that.
right, and you use the same size clamp for
Yeah.
each of the
Mhm,
glue jobs,
yeah.
so it'll give, and match your level.
Right, right. And then I usually do like on a board like this size, I have 3 clamps on the bottom, you know, 1 on each end. And then I put a clamp in the middle on the top. And that just gives it, it's probably over clamping it, but better to over clamp than under
I was
clamp.
just fixing to say,
So,
it's easier to take a clamp out than to fix something.
exactly, exactly. And the way I look at it too is like, I didn't bring the one that has it, but I have another one just like this that I made a couple weeks ago, and it developed a crack along this wood right here. And people say, well, it's ruined. Well, no, it's not. I just cut it off, and it's just a smaller board. So,
Well, you know, I've heard some people say they just put that, like, inlace epoxy in it for a decoration,
yeah,
and that holds it, and
yeah.
people love it. They
Yeah.
think it's real.
Yeah, I do that. I've got wood that's got, gets little holes in it from where the knots break out.
Yeah.
And, you know, I kind of think it's kind of cool to do the epoxy thing too. I don't do it a lot because people don't want to pay that little extra because that epoxy stuff and the material to make the colors is expensive. So I don't do that very often, but yeah, I've done that. And that saves boards. I mean, you know, a piece of wood that you normally would throw away because, you know, you can save it. But I don't do a lot of that, so, but,
So you could go ahead and put a design
mhm.
in your cutting board and put the epoxy in
Yeah.
there as a design.
Yeah, people do that. A lot of woodworkers you see on the internet where they'll actually take a piece of wood and design around that block that, you know, it's either where it's rotted out and they'll take all the rot out and then they'll put the epoxy in there. And they come up with some really,
But that's a plastic, and
Yeah.
you said don't use
yeah,
plastic.
I would,
throw it
yeah.
away.
Most people, if they've spent money on a board that's got that big epoxy on it, they use it for decoration and not for cutting.
Of course, I was just thinking like it's split right
Yeah,
there, you know,
yeah,
Not in the middle of it
Right,
particularly.
yeah, but yeah, some people do that epoxy.
You could always saw it lengthwise and
Mhm.
just replace it.
Yeah, yeah, you can do that too, yeah. It's more work that way, so I just cut it off and make it a
Yeah.
smaller board. So it's like, I mean, woodworking, you never have a mistake in woodworking. You have a design option. So, yeah.
That is entirely true.
It's very true, you know, it's like, if you cut off a foot, well, then that's what you do, disabled cat, you know,
It's
so.
meant to do that to start with.
Yeah, you know, who knows that, I mean, what customer would tell you, well, that was supposed to be an 18-inch board, it's only 12. Who's gonna know? Not, you know, 9 times out of 10, I don't remember what the board started with when I started either, so.
So it becomes a 12 with 2 inches left over, so you have a 2-inch board.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, the funny thing is that, when I started doing shows, I had a lady that asked me to do a board that was like 3 feet long, but only like 6 inches wide, because she wanted to use it on her table for vegetables and cheeses and stuff like that. And she called it a charcuterie board, and so I sell the heck out of those things, because people just like them, because they can put them in the middle of the table. I make shorter ones, and so they can put them around the room, and, you know, like whatever floats the boat.
I was fixing to say.
Yeah, I was like, if somebody gonna buy it, I don't have to, I'm making it. Another customer asked me to make, in-grain boards, but shorter, and I call them bar buddies. I should have brought one, but they're only like 4 inches wide, by 5 inches. And they're just like an index card. People, because my roommate uses them to cut limes for the beer, you know, and they just throw them back in the drawer and they're done. You don't have to get a big cutting board out. So I sell, I mean, boatloads of those.
What about
things.
coasters? Do you laminate and make those coasters like that too?
You know, I've never done the coasters because you know, I've never been enamored with coasters. So, but I do toaster tongs. I do toaster tongs. I do oven. What do you call those? Push sticks or ovens where you can.
What's a toaster tong?
A toaster tong is basically like a, what do they call those things that squeeze?
Yeah, so you don't have to touch.
Yeah, so you don't have to touch them.
Tongs.
Tongs, yeah, they're like tongs, like, I mean, like the metal tongs that you have in the kitchen, but they're smaller, they're made out of wood, you can get them into your toaster if your toast gets stuck, you know, that kind of stuff, yeah. So, they're very easy to make, you know, but,
Or like if you go to, say, the coffee bar that I meet the girls at, the guy that does his toasting, you know, he doesn't use his hands to
Right.
pick that stuff up with, he uses
Yeah.
a tongue and
yeah, it keeps you from using your fork so you don't electrocute yourself trying to get your toast out, you know, so. It's kind of important, you know.
minor detail.
Make it to the next day, you know, so you can actually eat your toast. But I sell a lot of those too. I think I've showed you the board as far as the cuts go. You know, I had this all organized how I was gonna do this, but your questions have pretty much helped everything. The end grain boards, one other thing that you'll notice, I don't have any feet on my cutting board. A lot of people will put rubber feet on them so that they stand up from the, you know, they have a little bit of space underneath the table. The reason I don't do that is pretty much three things. I don't like rubber feet because that introduces another area where food can get stuck underneath the feet, you know, and it doesn't get cleaned as well. Secondly, rubber feet do degenerate and they fall off, and then you have three rubber feet and only, you know, and then you're going like this. So you always have to stuff something under there to make it even. And the other thing is, when you have rubber feet, you only have one side to use for your cutting. No rubber feet, this side gets a little wore out, rubber that's fine, you know. So I don't like rubber feet.
Did you stain that dark wood in there?
No, this is all natural color, yeah. Yeah, this is all natural color. I don't stain any of my cutting boards.
What is that dark wood?
This is a Mexican walnut, and that's cherry, and that's also cherry. It's just a different board,
Okay.
yeah. So, yeah. But the Mexican walnut, oh, I love the Mexican walnut. I mean, it's hard, and it's just a beautiful wood.
Where do you get your wood?
I get most of my wood from Barney Robinson Lumber over on Lancaster Street in Fort Worth. Yeah, I get most of it there, because those guys, they're more commercial for the big contractors,
Yeah.
but they'll let the hobbyists come in and actually pick their wood. I mean, I've gone through whole bulks to find wood, and it doesn't bother them a bit. I have a small car, so I can't carry 8-foot lumber, so they'll cut it down for me, don't charge me for it.
They
And,
I also like their room there, the shortcuts. like
yeah, the
Boston,
shortcuts, yeah.
If you're a veteran, they'll give you a discount.
Yeah, they'll give you a discount, yeah.
What's the name of
And in
the
3 more years, I can get a senior citizen discount, so there is that. So, but yeah, they're really, really good
Yeah,
people over there.
lovely.
Yeah,
I love the
Yeah.
shop.
yeah, they're really nice, and you know, Curtis and Rufus back there in the cut, you know, I spend about 30 or 40 minutes just jawing with them before I even start picking out the wood, so, you know, but anyway.
They had their planer back, they're so excited.
Oh my
Their
gosh,
planer
yeah,
back.
after they had that fire,
They had a
oh,
big
yeah,
fire and
yeah,
it,
it really knocked them
the
down.
homeless got in there and
Uh-huh.
it burned their
Yeah.
planer, and these guys
Yeah.
were like, we
Yeah.
want our planer back.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they finally got the planer back, and they've got the new cutter now too, where they cut down the boards to different widths and stuff. It's, they've got themselves, they rebuilt really, really well, so.
Oh,
And the thing is too with them, they didn't really raise their prices while they were having to ship out all the boards to get planed. They really did not raise their prices that much. They did a little
They're
bit,
nice people.
but it's an amazing company. The way they run that company is just top notch.
Highly recommend it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's other places that you can get wood, but, you know, I know the guys and they know me and they say, oh yeah, just back up, you know, just go up back there and just get what you want.
I like the fact that they will let you go through stacks of wood
Yeah.
to find the wood piece you want.
Yeah, the last time I was there, I went through a whole stack of cherry before I found the board that I really wanted. Curtis was over there going, really? I was like, yeah, it's not right yet. So, you know, my personal opinion is if you go through a bunk, you put the bunk back together. So I always put the bunk back together. You know, so they say, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. No, I always do it. I mean, I just think that's just, to me, they let you do it. You should at least be polite enough and redo it. So, I mean, I even do that at Home Depot. So, but don't get me started on
Well,
Home
you
Depot.
know, I mean, I've been going there, but what a guy came in that was in a wheelchair,
Mhm.
and they brought over a whole pallet of wood for him to
Mhm.
inspect,
Yep.
to pick out, he was redoing his kitchen,
Mhm. Yeah,
and they had to, you know,
yeah.
moved the stuff,
Mhm.
then they helped him get the wood and all
Yep.
that.
Yeah,
These are cool. I mean,
Yeah,
I'd
they're
already
really
been
good.
using them, but that really showed me.
You know, one time I got over there about lunchtime, and all the guys were going to lunch. I had lunch with them. They shared their lunch with me, and we had lunch, and I went and got my lumber, so they're really, they're really top notch as far as lumber goes, so, I highly recommend them. If you need plywood, they're really good with plywood and that kind of stuff. I don't buy much plywood, but, trying to see if there's anything we haven't covered, because you guys asked such good questions. Told you about not doing it in the dishwasher, don't put your boards in the dishwasher. One thing about boards, just because I say they don't break, 99.9% like Dove, they don't break. They will occasionally break from stress at the glue line. I've had that happen twice, and I think I've been making, my accident was in 2008, so I've been making boards since 2008. I've had it happen twice. One on a very small board, it broke, and then my brother, George, called me one day and he says, "We got shot at." And I said, "What?" He says, "Yeah, we thought, somebody was shooting in our house, and he and his wife got under the table because they thought they were being attacked or something. And what it was, the board cracked along the board, and the force of the cut, or the force of the break, just sounded like a gunshot. So you will know if the board breaks. But that does not happen often. Like I say, I have literally made thousands of boards, and that's only happened twice that I know of, that a customer's called me and said something about it. So I don't worry about that, but.
If the wood's dry, it should,
Hmm?
if the wood is dry, it should.
Yeah, if you don't take care of the board and it dries out, it may crack,
So you never check the moisture of the board you're using?
Yeah, you use moisture cutter. You could usually, in Texas, when you buy a board at Barney Robinson, it's dry, it's been killed and everything like that. If I go out and use a piece of firewood, I'll use a moisture thing on it and see, if it's down, but I don't usually worry too much about it.
Well, places like Home Depot or Lowe's, I don't think they check.
No, they don't check anything. No, they don't check anything. And I do not recommend buying walnut or cherry or oak at Home Depot because the prices are just astronomical.
They don't usually have it.
Well, they have some, but that's the reason they don't carry much of it, because the price is just astronomical. Their pine now is astronomical too, so.
So the name of the place you're talking about, who is that? And-
Barney Robinson Lumber,
And where is that at?
that's on Lancaster in Fort Worth,
East Lancaster.
East Lancaster, right past Beach
I sent
Street.
you information on
Yeah.
Have
that.
they fixed the road where
I
you
think
get in there yet?
No,
Isn't a lot of
they
us
have
made
never
over there
fixed
one
that
time?
road.
Yeah.
You gotta go in there.
Joanne.
I got there, first time I went there, I called, how you get in there?
Yeah, no, they have never fixed the road on how to get in there. You do have to know how to get in there, so it's like,
And it's down from the missions.
yeah, it's down from the missions, and so,
So
If-
people out on the corner may be preaching
yeah, they may be preaching, or there's a lot of homeless people out there that you have to kind of
at
watch
the bus
for.
stop.
Joanne, you want to put that in the,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you do have to be careful if you go over there, because it's not the very best area of town, but I've never felt unsafe once I get inside the gate. The guys there really do a good job of keeping the riffraff.
So there's parking in.
There's parking,
Oh, yeah.
parking is kind of a hopscotch, is wherever you want to park your car, that's a parking spot, and it's,
But it's not in the gated area.
no, it's,
Yeah,
It's-
the whole,
it's
the whole, it's fenced in, yeah, it's all fenced in, yeah.
but you don't have to,
But
the gate's open
Yeah,
during the day.
yeah, the gates are open during the day, but the office is right at the front, so they see everybody that comes in. So, and they've got cameras all over the place, so I've never felt unsafe once I got in there. I felt unsafe a couple of times driving into there, because there's just just unsavory types that hang around out there that, you just don't want.
Park in the gated area.
Yeah, you park in the gated area, yeah. You can either park down by where lumber's at, in one of those buildings, or warehouse, or up at the office, and there's,
just park right there in front of
yeah, I usually park in front of the office.
You gotta go there to pay anyway.
Yeah, you gotta go in there and pay, so.
That's the first time I went there, that, I went in there and he said, just go out back there and pick out
Pick
what
out
you
what you
want,
want, yeah.
come back.
They let me drive actually.
And I had,
drive into the
I had
warehouse.
Yeah.
my veteran hat on, and he just gave me the
Yeah.
veteran discount, I mean,
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, it's a top-notch company. I
Oh,
mean,
it's a homegrown
yeah, it's
Robinsons.
been by the great-grandfather.
Barney
started.
stopped me out in the parking lot one day when I guess he wanted to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And he stopped me out in the parking lot one day and said, "Come here, I want to show you my apartment. It's
Yeah,
upstairs."
exactly.
I love wood.
Yeah.
It's a company. I
Yeah.
love wood. Come on in,
Yeah.
let me show you all my
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, oh yeah, if you get started talking with Kevin, oh my God, you'd be there all afternoon, so he just goes on and you start talking about lumber prices and pretty soon you're talking about whatever happened in the Philippines yesterday, so he's just, whew, all over the place.
And they also have that room.
Yes, yeah,
It's
With-
attached.
that's attached there, it's got some
Yes, it's got
really
short
short pieces
and good prices.
good prices, yeah.
Oh,
Well, when I first came to Texas and started woodworking, I went over there and I didn't buy a lot of good wood, but he said, well, there's this bucket over here with all these scraps in it. I just filled up the back of my car and then I started learning to do stuff. But yeah, you can get they used to call them ribbons, I think is what they call them, where they cut off the edges that,
And, yeah, I just, can't go in that room.
and you get lost in that
I
room.
have to rent a truck to get out of there.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And they're really good with the pricing on that stuff.
That's the thing, the
'cause-
prices are
yeah,
so good.
Because it's junk wood to them, so
Yeah.
you're basically paying what it costs them to cut it up. So it's really, and for scroll board, that's really good stuff. So, what's junk to one person is treasure to another, so.
So, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
If you buy the
Mhm.
butcher block
Mhm.
counters or whatever at Home Depot, Lowe's,
Mhm.
wherever, is the mineral spirits the best for them also?
If you're buying butcher block at Home Depot, it's plastic. It's not real wood.
Are you talking about a ready-made, like, for instance, if you're at Walmart and buying one in the home department, is that what you're asking?
No, the butcher block, the birchwood butcher block.
Oh, it's
from
actually,
Home Depot.
oh, okay. No, I've never seen that there, but, yeah, mineral oil is your best bet, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you gotta check what they sell with it. They usually bring, they have to tell you what the wood is and what it's
Yeah.
made of. They probably have on there what it's been finished with, because it's probably already been finished somehow. It's probably not raw.
Because it's saying it's all unfinished.
Okay, if it says it's unfinished, then it's raw wood, then I would use mineral oil for that, so. But I'll be honest with you, you're probably paying a whole lot more at Home Depot for a butcher block board than you would if you went to a craft show or a farmer's market where somebody's selling cutting boards. You're probably better off getting
Well,
it
this
from
is more like shelving,
yeah, they're huge, yeah. A true butcher block is not a cutting board. A butcher block historically is what butchers in, medieval time would use, and they're usually like that wide or that tall, and
Oh,
they're,
yeah.
enough to put a cow carcass on. And, they use those big knives. If you ever go to an antique mall,
I grew up with,
oh yeah, you see them, and
yeah, I
I mean,
grew
those
up
things
with
are
butchers
monsters.
and they use a cleaver.
Yeah, yeah, and they'll last for hundreds of years. There's some that, people are still using in Europe that, from the Middle Ages.
but they're not flat anymore.
They're not flat anymore.
No.
They are probably not flat anymore, but they're still good,
Yeah.
so, why throw out a good wood? So, the other thing is, if you do get a good cutting board and you're gonna use it, don't ever expose it to direct sunlight, because it'll dry it out. And don't, for God's sake, do not store it on the top of your oven or your stove. It's not a good idea. I've had people do that, and they say, well, why is my board warping? It's like, well, yeah, you can't have it exposed to that kind of heat all the time, so. Yeah, so, you guys answered all the questions, everything I had in my lecture, so, any other questions, or?
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Her customers are throughout the United States and even in Europe.
Yeah, I've got boards in 7 countries besides the United States, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
They're called.
so they're fun.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're nationally known now.
I am, I'm an international
So
person.
how did your name get going like that?
Make some of that.
Well-
I've had people from overseas buy stuff at craft shows, but as far as them.
It's usually people that come to the farmer's market where I would sell, and they're going someplace to see family, and they just take it over there. I don't do anything on the web or anything like that, it's all word of mouth, you know, that kind of stuff. I haven't done any shows since before the pandemic, you know, I'm not sure if I will again, but yeah, that's where I
They're
go.
really fine.
They do buy really well, I mean, and if you can get really, really fancy with cutting boards, especially ingrain boards, because you can do all kind. I mean, you go on the internet, you can see 3D type boards. You can see, it's incredible. But they take so long to make, the really fancy ones, that a board this size that looked like it's a 3D project. You know, you look at it, it's like, how does that work? And it looks 3D. Well, that would take probably 40 hours to make, and most people can't afford a $300, $400 cutting board, you know. I mean, the most I've ever priced on a cutting board was like $175,
And they pay that?
yeah, if you go to the right shows, they will. I mean, I did a charity show over in Keller they had some kind of, they had a charity show, and I took my stuff there, and the lady that got me to go there, she came over to my table and she says, "You need to change your prices." And I said, "What do you mean?" Because I thought my prices were very reasonable, because I want to sell the boards, I don't want to make.
Yeah.
She says, "No, you need to double all your prices." You know, she says, "These people will buy it," and she says, "Just take those price tags off right now and redo them." And she insisted. And by golly, I made so much money that night, it was just, I mean, one guy just gave me his credit card and said, "I want 10 boards, just pick out which boards you want." And he gave him his credit card. I was like, okay, you know, I did very well that time. But
Highland Park.
Highland Park, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
But most of my boards, I sell to the people who, you know, like me, that would like a nice board, but, you know, it's not, I mean, you don't want to look at it as an investment, you know, it's a nice board. I want a nice board that I can use. If I spend $200 on a cutting board, I'm probably not going to use it, you know, because, you know, why would you do that? But I'll pay $65 or $75 for a cutting board, you know.
You're gonna use forever.
Yeah, get it used for, I mean, good gracious, I mean, I've been using this board for a really long time, and it looks perfectly good. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that board. Probably needs oil, but, you know. And I keep the price tag on there just to see how long it'll stay. So, I don't know, you know, those weird things people do. So, but anyway,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Yep.
Hope you enjoyed it. You guys asked great questions. Thought I was gonna do more lecturing than that. But you guys did great.